Wow, this thing seems to be like lagging. Wow. Anybody out there? Wow. Seems to be a kind of a delay or like a lag for some reason, like a... Interesting. Hi. Just going to move this quickly. 1 second, give me... move this thing up here. It seems to be a lag. Sorry, people. For some reason, the internet. That's interesting. Just a general chat. I see somebody asked me a question as well. Maybe I should actually try and send this to them. I know it's pretty... It's actually... There's a lot of things. They will change. I know that in time. But it would be wonderful if we did have some positive changes with the internet, especially like allowing people to make lives that haven't got 1,000 followers, because there's people that have questions for you. You know, and you can't really just answer it in a text or a short, as I say, text thing. So some people really, are on their awakening journey and want advice or have, questions and something. And they're not able to like come on quickly and just ask, and you can just resolve those for them, especially because you've been through those phases. And that's a bit sad, because they have these silly things. You have to have 1,000 followers before you can do a live, which is you discover. Anyway. Please let me know, anyone who's following is watching this, just type in and let me in the comments if the sound, just let me know, yes, the sound's fine, because the internet seems to be really lagging. It seems to be like a delay, like a lag thing here. So I just want to make sure that you can at least hear what I'm saying. What I look like is relevant, but but it's more the hearing. How is the sound? Let me see if I can send it to this. So really, this girl really has some questions, and you see she's really keen on her awakening, as you are when you first wake up. I really need to do a lot of things. And see, the algorithms, they're always trying to get you to follow more people. It's so everything, because of the consciousness, they still focused on the external world, chasing things as though they're real. So they are very financially orientated. Very, wow. It's all the system is so, because exactly there. Till you see nothing is real, it's like, oh, wow. So that's a big shock. Huge shock when you really see that this nothing is real. That is a big shock, I must admit. Initially, when the first time you see it, when you really believe, that this is my children and this is whatever and everything. You chase cars and chase, you're chasing all this stuff, which is completely, wow. That'll shake that cage quite quickly. But what you find here, I wouldn't say frustrating, because it is what it is, but it's like now, they try and get you to, they try and say it's commercialized as usual, because that's their consciousness. You see, everything's real. My gosh, wow. Anyway, so we're chasing the illusion. So everything is about money. So they try and get you to follow their whoever their these managers are. So it's music people or actors or movies, whatever. It's always about marketing. It's marketing. Oh my gosh, that'll be nice, and that all. So much is going to change. Wow, so much is going to change. You actually can't even comprehend the change that are going to happen on Earth. People, you really can't. There's no ways you can possibly imagine what's going to happen. First of all, when the illusion fades, when the illusion falls, everything changes. I mean, that's it. This whole thing is gone. This illusion is poof, gone. This extra world and things you're chasing out there, poof. There's going to be such changes in the story. Just as I was trying to think, there's no ways you can even begin to tell people. Because as I say, when this one first saw through everything and realized, like, you're staring at your own children, who's like, everything, all of a sudden you realize there's no one there. They're not your kids. They never were. You didn't have, wow. And that nothing is real. It's like, ugh. And, that car you wanted, that lovely whatever. Just like, ugh. So TikTok algorithm, that's what I say, the internet can be rather... It's just, it's all going to change. It doesn't matter what happens. Everything's going to go poof. all of this, system that's not serving everyone for the highest good will just crumble. Same with corporations. So you don't have to do anything. You don't have to say anything because it will fall. The consciousness changes, it will change. Because when you realize everyone is you, you're not out there to try and screw them and to try and, buy your stocks back and pay them the lowest wages you can possibly pay people and all of that. I mean, all of that will change. You don't have to effort. That's what people don't realize. You don't have to protest. You don't have to effort. You just raise your consciousness. It will change. Any of this story about, making, a few extracting all the money, out of everybody else, that will change because there's no others. All of this, so much. I mean, you walk around and it's coming. You see things and the walls will go, the borders will go, this will go. There's just so much. It's all illusion. When they're losing, it's all consciousness. Because as it changes here, it will be changed on the outside. Anyway, there's already so much. Wow. So you walk around and like when you're walking around, animals are going to walk freely. You just knew this. I went for a walk the other day and I realized all these so-called walls, we have of my cattle, so this is my farm and these are my fences and all these, everything's fenced in, like, because it's a representation. Gosh, it's boxed in its little box. My bubble, I'm a person, whatever. Sorry, we're just having, who knows, whatever coming out here, it's coming out. Hello, people. It's sharing whatever. It's having a rant, it looks like it. So you realize it was so wonderful. I'm going for a walk a month or two ago. And you just realize, wow, all of us, you just knew that animals will be freely walking around the planet. There won't be this, the cows will be free again just to move like they do, I suppose, in Iceland. Not my cows and your cows and I'm going to steal your cow or whatever, So there won't be all these stupid fences and walls and people as well, all this nonsense of borders. And I mean, it's just so, it's actually when you realize, that's what I say, as you rise up and you realize how silly and other nonsense that's here, all of these things will change. So like now you don't even really worry with it, but it is like TikTok, the algorithms now. And I don't know, I think I've refreshed it so many times, I can't even tell you. They'd refresh your page. Hi, Ira. Hope you're well. Lovely to see you. So you've got these algorithms that keep trying to, put on your feed. They keep trying to get you to, I suppose, follow this or follow that or whatever. I don't know why. That's what I'm saying. It's controlled. It's not natural algorithms. So you've got your so-called keywords and the things you want to see. If you look at on the menu here on TikTok, there is no such thing as spiritual content, the shift, consciousness, no choices. Entertainment, food, sport, whatever. It's unconscious shit. Those are your selections. So if you want to choose like things that you want to see, right? You're supposed to select things. Well, there's nothing there that you want to select, actually. For someone who's waking up, there's like, nah, none of that interests me. I don't want to see sport, the news, marketing, whatever, any of that stuff. So you can't even choose consciousness or content. Then you have your words here you select, right? So-called everyone knows the algorithms are not generic. They used to be originally. When I first joined TikTok, they were organic. It's amazing. The algorithms were amazing. In 2021, wow, TikTok was lovely. It wasn't commercial. There wasn't any branding. There wasn't any, any of the stuff on it. It was so different. It was so just people on people, and people were talking and meeting people. It was amazing. It was social media. Really, original TikTok was social media. It was so beautiful on here. Nothing commercial. So you have your keywords, which this one has got them all in there, and it doesn't matter. They'll decide now all of a sudden. All your For You stuff is, I can't even tell you how irrelevant it is. It's like, you wouldn't even want to watch it. Like, no. So I think I'm probably the person that is trying to get the algorithm, you can see then it's not working. It's not AI that's learning, it's AI that's programmed. Because I can refresh the feed and say it's irrelevant content and I've got all the keywords and it just means nothing. So you just stay off it for a while. You just don't scroll. It's like, and then they'll try that. Oh no, we're trying to find new things that you might like. Nothing you can say you say you want, or in that category. There's not even categories you can choose, but they keep feeding you the same stuff, unconscious. you know, absolutely, well. So it's like, so anyway, I'll share. So I think I'm the person that's refreshed their feed the most and put their relevant, and you realize, oh well, you know, don't worry, because it's not going to, you know, just leave it. It'll all come down, and it's lovely knowing this. But when you realize, when you really see, as I say, that this is completely, nothing's real, and there's nobody, there's no people. I mean, there's no, you know, there's nothing in the bodies, nobody in the bodies, like they are empty of anything. And then your desire for this house and the car and the things and all that, you realize, you know, the immensity of the change that is coming to this planet, that you can't even begin to tell people that how things are going to change. And as you know now, if you're on this journey, as within, so without. So whatever you do here, you change frequency, and the thing is also changes out there. So of course you're going to see changes out there. You know, all these things that they are, wow, there's so much that's going to change, you can't even begin to imagine. So to say, all of this taking advantage of the people, the few that are extracting, you know, wealth from everybody else, and the corporations, it'll all fall completely. All of that stuff will go, boof. You know, this, yeah, it won't hold up. So people don't have to worry, because all of this fake and all of this, you know, greed and all of this nonsense and you know, it's not going to stay. The way the current corporate structure is, it will not hold up. Unless your business is like, you know, let's say if I've got a company that's profit share. So your staff are all making, you know, joining in the profits. And so people haven't got this figured out yet, you see, because it's consciousness. When you look after your staff, wow, do they only really care about you and your business? Because they invested in it. They're getting shares, they're getting profit. So the better the business does, the better they do. But the current corporate, wow, anyway, it's not even good. It's, I say, it doesn't matter. It's just, as I say, it'll all come down like a house of cards. Anyway, so little update. I don't know who's on here, I'll just give you a bit of an update where you are on your, or not on your thing. I'll give you some idea. So here at the moment, which is wonderful to see, there's just like no interest, because it's just at stage, and it seems to be fading, which is wonderful news, because you know it'll be going, you know, for everyone else as well. So the interest in the outside, in the illusion, is like just not. There is just no interest, because you have seen, you know, it doesn't affect you. You know, the outside cannot affect you, because it's not being created. So people when you're still very much on the beginning parts of your journey, you think that the so-called government, everything out there will affect you. No. It's really not cognizing there is no out there. It's only a projection. So here, as you change here, same with your friends, as you raise frequency, as your consciousness shifts, everything else shifts. You're starting to see that. So the more you go, the more you realize, and then you have less interest. You just have no actually interest. So this is like here, it's just like, no, you know, you realize, you know, it's crumbling. It's just a projection. It's not real. So you don't need to watch it or pay attention to it or have any, you know, just, that's it. It's not real. It's not even there. So there's no interest in the so-called global affairs and what's happening out there, because you know it's absolutely not. What you can't see is not there. so there's just like no interest in the illusion anymore, which is lovely. And all that noise. And noise, it's like identity, also any forms of identity. Me, when you hear this, me, I, blah, 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 all of that, lots of talking. Ego, a lot of story actually, and identity. So you don't really want to engage in conversations that also, you know, that talk about my mother, I'm a this, you know, when you were in the world, really in it and unconscious, it was like, so when you meet someone, you know, they first of all, what do you do? You know, people, that's what I'm saying, doing is what you are. It's like, it's so bizarre. No one asks, well, who are you? No one even knows. If you ask them, they look at you blankly. Who are you? Oh, I really have no freaking idea, actually. But there's no interest in like, well, you know, I did this and I worked there and all that kind of, the stories. Same with the mind. There's no interest in it's blah, 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 and it tries to like bring up the past and, so the identity is losing its grip majorly, which is such a good thing. This is close. It's close. We're getting there. So that you can see this is where the collective is going to be moving to very soon. So the identity, the grip of, I'm a mother, I'm a anything. Any of these things about any identity or past or, as the doer, the ego is definitely losing its, you can see. So that's a great sign. The noise, just the blah, blah, talking about, that illusion. The name, the roles, because it's identity, it's ego structure. Any identity is an illusion. I'm a this, I'm a that, because it's related to the body. And when it brings up its story. So there's no interest in the blah, blah, blah in the mind. It does sometimes get busy. It has its days where it's like, blah, 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 and you're like, oh, whatever, just leave it, let it do its thing. And off it goes, But there's just not interest in what it's got to say. So that's good news. So these are all, and that's just going on its own, which is lovely. Is not having to make an effort. Whereas before, this one really made an effort, like to silence it and meditate like 24/7, to get that thing, as I say, it pushed the awakening, it pushed that envelope to know, But as I say, the consciousness wasn't ready because it was really identified with the illusion. So it did scare the crap out of it when when everything was revealed as there's nothing like, and when the so-called reality started to vanish, literally, like any solid structure of appearances of bodies and forms started to dissolve, it was quite this bit of a. You don't have an ego. You don't, that's what I'm saying. You see, what makes you think that you are a separate entity is only lots of thoughts. Is that if you pay attention to them, you can't even find a location of them. Watch the thoughts. It's a story about your life, you. It's thoughts. So if you pay attention and you logically think about it, you're hearing a voice, so-called in your head here. You're hearing a voice somewhere in nothingness. If you close your eyes and just... I talked about this. If you go to my YouTube page... Go and watch my last video. Watch them, and you will see a voice says, I did this, I did that. Think about it. You are listening to some thoughts somewhere, just some talking in your head, which is not really, it's not even, it's no substance to it. Saying they did something. Are you thoughts? You're the one who's listening to this. I did by my sister, blah, 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 blah. And then you realize, well, who the hell is that talking? That's it. It's the mind. The mind itself, so-called mind, is created because it was taught to believe that it is it is a living thing. It is real. And that is going on. You are source. You are the one source. You are the source itself, the one and only. Non-physical, everything that's here. Energy. Kind of, I suppose you could say. Yeah, that's it. And if you ignore that and stop listening to it, the illusion falls, and then you will see the truth. But it's to ignore, just to completely ignore whatever it says. You'll say it's untrue anyway. So that's why I say, you see, there's a belief that there is a separate entity. This is what make it, and that's the trap. Because then you want to try and get rid of it, which enforces the fact that there is something to get rid of. There's not. It's a lot of blah, blah, blah. Literally. Only thing that keeps the energy, the focus on the mind believing is a constant narrative. Blah, 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 blah. That is how simple it is to get back to source, to realize yourself as God, is to actually, and you can force, if you're forced to stop it, it kicks back even twice as loud, is to ignore it, literally. Literally, there is no separate one. That's what actually makes you think and constantly get you in a trance. So they call that trance. You're in a trance, because the consciousness is like there, so close to the thought, you know what I mean? And all what it does, that thought, consciousness, you, source is here, right? The thought appears. It energizes it, and it makes it so it takes on a shape, its appearance. So what the thing is, the movies, like here all the time in your face, you see. So you're not getting it back to see it. It's like... So how you see through the illusion is by not listen, is just by watching it, and then you realize, well, how can I be that thing that's going off? How can you be a thought? I did this, I did that. It's like, so when you start to see it, you start getting distance. But give it some time. It's energy. It's energized, you see. It naturally does. As I'm telling you now, it's lovely. It naturally does. And if you're not ready, as I say, like this one pushed the envelope a few years ago. Wow. Like really pushed the envelope. And it was such a shock. It wasn't so much of a shock seeing that nobody was here and everything was like transparent stuff. That initially was like, wow, okay, what's the point of all this? What, so it swung always. So we've done the nihilism path, or what's the point? It's such a paradox. But then when everything started to lose shape, like literally, that was a bit of a wow, when everything started to like dissolve, all the shapes. So it's like even the shapes of the body, it all started like that was like, yeah. Anyway, it was just, I think, you knew, as I say, there's only one, but the system wasn't quite ready. Didn't have that knowing yet. It wasn't so, you know what I mean? So it was like force. So it was like fear. So it really got quite a shock. And it was like, at its disillusionment, it was like, wow, that was a bit of it jumped. Hi, Gracie. Oh, hi. Are you able to go live? I was just saying, they need to change social media. It's such a social. That's what it is supposed to be. Social media, not commercial media, social media. This platform used to be social media in 2021. But then they made this, everyone's done it. You can't go live unless you've got 1,000 followers, which is then giving people, especially in the shift, they need to be able to, they really, when you first wake up, you have a lot of questions, a lot of fears, you go through so many different stages and levels of purging and, shedding and stuff. So you're really looking for answers and solutions. People need to be able to ask. You can't just type out there. So if you are able to go live, Gracie, and you want to ask, because I see the other day you asked me a question, just go live and join me, okay? And you can ask, because a lot of people want to ask questions. They want some clarity on things. And they just want to, just ask 1 or 2 questions and get some answers. So we need social media, especially during the shift now, that allows people to go live. They don't have to have 1,000 followers. You're waking up, you need answers, you know what I mean? And you go through different levels and different stages. And yeah, people need to be able to, because you can't just type a text and something. The questions aren't that thing where you can just one answer, text it and type it out. So Gracie, Grace, there we are. I see you asked the other day, and I know, so it would be lovely if you are able to. You're very welcome, darling. Yeah? This is the whole point of us being on here, is to help, because you go through, and there's always those that are behind. There's those that are in front. That's just the way, this whole illusion works. There's those that are way ahead of this even planetary consciousness, so-called, in the story. It's just, the same one at different levels and different, So everybody helps each other. And as you go through, you need people to ask, and then you ahead of others, and then those behind you will want to ask you questions, and what about this, and how do you do that, and that's just how it works. So yeah, we need social media where people can actually ask each other, go live, you know what I mean, interact. It's so healthy too. It's such a good thing. And now it's more, they're trying to, it's actually, because it's run by Unawakened, so it's commercial media. It doesn't matter. Don't worry about it. You leave that. Leave the movie. It will just go poof. As I say, especially when you understand what's happening. That's what I'm saying. You don't worry about the movie, because you know what changes here is gonna change. And as you see it coming, you can also interpret. You see the collective stories, the collective shadows, the collective things they're working through. And when something clears, it's going to change on the outside. So what's going to collapse. You can see how as I say, the changes are going to be like, you can't even begin to imagine, actually. an awakened planet. Oh, wow. Like just chalk and cheese. It's just like, wow. Yeah. Yeah, as I say, everything's different because there's no real world. You don't see, like, not what you're seeing now. Okay, well, it's Gracie, if you've got some questions you really want to, you need some clarity and you haven't got someone to ask, on my Facebook page, you can message me, and you can do video calls and voice calls on Facebook. So go and follow me on Facebook and send me under one of my videos, just tag me and I'll follow you back then. And then you can message me, and then you can just over my Facebook page, just ask me for a time. I'm in the UK, so please can you make it in the afternoon or early evening, if that's possible. And then just say, can I talk to you, at this time and that day, and no problem. All right. If you need some help, absolutely. All right. Contact me then. I know this is what I'm saying. The social media is not for people because it's, it's still commercial media, They don't realize the creating of the outside is coming from within. It's like, yeah, no, you can't tell anyone. You can't. You cannot explain to people they're not there yet. There's no ways you can comprehend it or understand it, or That's why I say there's just like no interest in the story, in the game, in the so-called out there. Is like, what out there? I mean, it's just it's all noise, and the noise is definitely losing its, as I say, any of that. But interesting, as I was saying, this body is being guided about 2.5 months ago or something, maybe something like that. All of a sudden we got inspired to join this health club, like this health place, it's like a health gym place, anyway, to go and exercise, but not normal exercising. Anyway, there's an over 60s, like a thing for over 60s in the morning, so it's 3 or 4 times a week, so it's perfect. And it's actually perfect for here because the exercise is very light. Because when you get older, you tend to walk, which this one loves walking. Oh, okay. Okay, well, if you want, as I say, okay, contact me. I think you can have Messenger without Facebook, Grace. So as far as I know, you can use... because they've changed things. I think you can use Messenger without having Facebook. So you can still contact me on Messenger. Same name. All right. If you want. If you need to, ask questions or something. If you, on this path and just want to clarify some things that, it'll help you. Because I see you obviously very serious about your awakening. Of course, absolutely. If I can answer your questions, I absolutely will. All right. I'll help with pleasure. Anyway, so all of a sudden, as I say, there was obviously inspired action to go and join this like gym place. I love this anyway because I love water, right? So there we go. It's also, the body is loving it. It's really helping the body after what happened with the body. Wow. So it's getting fit. It's getting healthy. Because when you get older, you tend to walk a lot, no problem. The legs, I mean, for this done a lot of walking. So the legs have always been. But the rest of the body was like, And after, who knows, what this body went through from the one to in the shift, wow. It went through a rough time last year or so. Wow. So it needed to get back on track again. Well, who knows? That's what you thought. So we joined this thing. And we're getting into it now. It's lovely. So over 60s. So we realize, okay, when you join it, you realize, okay, you're not just there for this. No. So it seems to be, this body seems to be spreading the awakening, out to the actual general public. Because, okay, yes, you can do it separately. Because I've had people there, it says, it's a new thing. This was surprised me. You can have Messenger without Facebook. You are very welcome, my darling. I'll help you with pleasure, okay? You can ask questions. I got a few people that contact me every now and then, they just ask for some clarity or whatever, if they're sitting with questions or they just want to run something, back. So you absolutely can, all right? Anyway, hi, Randiana. So I'll tell you. So this was interesting. So I go and join this gym place, and I'm doing this swimming with over 60s. There's like a section for only over 60s. So I'm doing that. Very interesting. But you also, there's not only over 60s that are coming into this place, because as it ends, other people come in or you meet up. I've had the most, is no accident. The people that you are bumping into in the conversations in the change room or wherever, first of all, I think you're spreading love and joy, the energy, it's definitely. But this is for people that are not awake at all. So you can see this. You realize. So you end up in a change room with a lady who's now just been diagnosed with Parkinson's. And you start talking about that and you start sharing Dr. Joe Dispenza's story. Or you start talking, someone starts about and ends up talking about there's no death. So it seems to be spreading the awakening, spreading, just to get people to, like, I suppose, that haven't questioned life after death. It's amazing. So the amount of conversations that are coming up here, like what's coming out of his mouth, and you just think, no, there's no coincidence. There's just too many of these conversations popping up, and people you're ending up within a change room or meeting, or catching your breath, swimming and chatting to, or whatever. It's so interesting. But what is really interesting as well, when you know the truth, there's like no doubt at all. But when you're not awake, fully, because you've been there, so you understand this. You watch them. It's so interesting to watch how people, the fear of death is so ingrained because the illusion is only a thought. That's why it feels so insecure. It's so convinced it's the body and it's real and it's indestructible, and also fear of death because they don't know. They really believe the body. There's no clue. There's no contact with the self. See, they're unawakened. They haven't even, let's say, had any contact with source, higher self, or anything to make them think there's anything after. So it's also belief systems. It's so funny watching people because now this mind is so identified with its story that a belief comes up and what I found is interesting is it's threatening the belief systems. Some feel very uncomfortable. You can actually watch the body language of others listening who are not ready to hear the information. You can see that ego, it's like they feel very uncomfortable mentioning that you're a soul, there's something after life, there's anything after death. It's so interesting watching. So some feel very uncomfortable, some have fear, some are just like, no, whatever, yeah, sure, do you believe in Santa Claus, But the most interesting thing is, even if they respond, if a response is negative, because you are so grounded in your knowing, the truth, there's not even if people, even if they're not in a nasty way, but if they say, yeah, do you believe in Santa Claus, this and that, if you can see they just have no, there's no, it's just like water off a duck's back, because this is projection. Their projection, it has no effect on you whatsoever. Whether they think you delulu, if they, want to think you're insane or whatever, it's completely irrelevant. But it's so interesting that the conversations that you happen to, that's what I'm saying. I think I'm not joining this over 60s group for nothing. So obviously you're planting seeds for those that are not going to be around much longer. Well, who knows? As I'm saying, you're over 60s. So, I don't know, who knows? But it's so interesting that you end up in this situation because some are very perceptive to it. That was interesting. I had a few conversations. One lady's got Parkinson's, just been diagnosed, and you're telling them, no, don't worry about it, this and that, and you can see, so, it's fine, nothing wrong, and explaining death and what happens when you die, because you've died, this body died. So that's a great advantage, is what I'm saying. The great advantage is of here that this body has died, it's gone through the death experience. So here you are, with these over 60s and whatever else and whatever. Someone's sick, someone lost this one, that one, whatever, who knows. These conversations are coming up, and then you realize, no, I wasn't joining the exercise only. Although it's doing the body, it's really helped. The body's getting back. It's leaving their feeling, so it's getting back its stamina, energy, and, health and whatever. So that's good. But you can see that there's a purpose. So there's obviously a need. I don't know. As I'm saying, you never know. But I mean, some are coming, some are going, whatever. You're planting a seed. So who knows? You don't even question it. Okay, whatever. It's just the conversation's finished. And you're not sure why it was shared. And you don't even, there's no even trying to guess. You just know whatever these interactions are, there we are. No accidents. In the story, that's what I say, it's such a paradox. Because the real truth is nothing's happening. There is no cause and effect. There's no people. There's no any of this. But yet the story goes on. That's what I say. It's so... And in the story, everything has meaning and a purpose and a direction. And I mean, I just shared Cryan's latest channeling about what's coming. And that resonated so much. You know it. When you hear it, it's like, it's the truth. You're like, yep. So in the story, there is everything has meaning. It's, as I say, if you understand the paradox of the illusion, the illusion is absolute paradox. So whatever's happening in the story, it's a complete opposite to the actual highest truth. There's only source. Nothing's happening. No one's going anywhere. There aren't any people. There's no story. There's nothing, it's like, that's what I say. It's like, it's just, wow. It's such a mind. But in the story, everything is exactly the opposite. Everything has a meaning, and everything you see is a meaning. Person, you're like, all right. It's the same with like, when if someone's meant to be there or they leave the body. Same with this body if it's had a wobble, since it did in the story, which never happened. That's what I'm saying, really. In the so-called past, which didn't happen, this body died a few years ago. Wow. That was quite something. That's what I say. So you can explain it in great detail and tell people. So there's no fear about what it's like, what's going to happen. So you can help them through that story. But as I say, if it has a wobble, there's no worry again now. Like even here, if you're like out of breath, if you push it a bit, exercise, because there's no accident. You can't push it. When this body is going to take its final breath, or whenever it's going to stop working again, like, poof, that's it. It will. So if it has you're like, so then the body goes. There's no like, oh my gosh, Initially, and when the first time the body died, let's say, that's what I'm saying. Oh, this is like a story. Parent, the first time the body died, obviously that was like, wow, you heard the voice, right? It's time to go. When you knew you were having heart failure, big time. It was like, wow, that was quick. That was the first thing that goes to your mind. Wow, that was quick. It's like, poof, gone. The story was like 1, 2, 3, because there hasn't been any time anyway. The past is all imagined. It's like so bizarre. So yeah, it is interesting. So in the story, there's no accident that this body's now guided to go and spend 3 days a week with the over 60s. And the conversations it's having with people. I'm sure some people avoid you afterwards because they're not ready for it. It's like, no. Some are curious. You can see some are listening. And so I'm saying that even they're not accidentally there. And like really, you can see very much interested. And you can see they're believing you, whatever you're saying. Or they don't doubt this life after death or anything. It depends on whatever level. It's so interesting. Some are, who knows? Some are, that's what I'm saying. You smile because these interactions, you're more observer. It's so interesting when you think, oh, that's interesting that interaction happened. Like there was a gentleman after the one swimming session, sitting in the sauna. I do like 10 minutes when I finish swimming. You do like an hour of swimming and then 10 minutes, whatever. And that's what I say, there's always different people you can bump into. Who knows? Because when the over 60 session's over, before the younger people, whatever. So there was a gentleman. I can't guess how old he was. Older, same age or older, in the 60s, 70s, I don't know. Sitting in the sauna, and somehow the conversation, I don't even remember. So I say, you don't even remember these things, how it started, apparently. But a conversation started, and something to do with Tai Chi or Qigong or something. I said, yeah, no, I do it. It's, I enjoy Qigong. He said, well, he teaches. That's what I'm saying. There's more. Sometimes there's people, there are, actually. It's interesting to gauge. There's awaken and starting and all kinds of, whatever's going on out there, so-called, out there. So this gentleman ended up in the sauna with me. So I say, I'm having the most interesting interactions. Wow. I was like, you're not here by accident. No. So this was, and he hasn't spoken spoken to you since. So it didn't, but it doesn't matter. So I'm saying source, there was a message. Whatever source wanted to say to itself, it said it. And but it probably didn't like it too much. It's not, if you're not ready to look at yourself, you won't like it. So So that's what I said. This was interesting, very interesting conversation. So we're in the sauna, and this gentleman sitting there, is telling me, "Oh no, I teach, Tai Chi or something. You must come to my classes." I said, "No." I said, "Thanks," but I said I do Qigong when sometimes online. But now I'm doing this. I don't really need to. That's what I say. This is perfect because it's moves energy, it cleanses energy. Swimming, it's gentle for the body, and everything else besides walking. So that's perfect. I don't really need to do other energy stuff or anything anyway, or go to any classes or anything. So anyway, somehow then he mentioned the political story. The most, as I say, the most controversial political figure, let's just say, which is Source, for heaven's sake. It's imagined, so it's projection, shadow projections. So he mentioned this political figure, and so I say, there's in the story, if you very much haven't, it depends, especially if you haven't looked within enough, you're not understanding the mirror yet. So this person started going on about this political, political figure, saying blah, 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 blah. And I said, but that's Source. So this one you can see, obviously, if he's doing Tai Chi, he's doing his meditation, you could see fairly much awake. So I said, and that is Source as well. And then it was, yes, you're right. And then it said something else. And I said, God is all things in everyone. But you could see whatever this interaction was, it was like, but I don't want to know, I don't want to accept that. You see, I don't want to know, it's not. So there's, as people know in your own thing, if you're not ready to face your own shadows or whatever, you're not going to, same with outside, you're going to reject them anyway. So it wasn't a nasty conversation at all. It was just, some clarity on, no, everything is God. Everything is Source. And it was like silence. And after that, so funny, because I've seen him, and he purposely does not talk to me or avoids me. So obviously, I don't know whatever that interaction was about, but it was so interesting. It's some you see, because I don't want to see it. If that, it's so interesting because someone said that, and I don't want to accept that, you see. But if you sit back and reflect, well, if it's Source, why? What is the purpose? What is the role? You see, that's by going deeper then to think, well, if God is all and everyone and everything, that's what I say, then everything, and you got to understand reality first, you see, that it's a projection of your consciousness, and then of all. So that is the collective projection, and if you can read them, then you understand what's happening, and you're not even, worried what's happening outside anyway. You understand, well, that's just part of it. It's part of the dark night of the soul, purging, fighting the shadows, rejecting the shadows, hating their shadow, all that kind of stuff. It's just, thinking the illusion has any kind of, anyway. So, it was very interesting. And it doesn't bother you, because I say, this one there's no, like, anything of anybody. There's no judgment. It's just whatever comes out is shared, and you can see. So I think it's to do with the energy, the love, the energy, because most people, a lot of old people are very set in their ways. They're very in their programs. If they're unawakened, as everyone knows, they're like, it's so, So, I don't know. Maybe that's why. I'm not sure. But it is interesting. So it's spreading kindness, spreading love, and they say the most interesting interactions that you end up, and you're like, okay. So there we are. Let's see. You'll also get guided out there. So that you seem to be doing some seeding and energy now externally as well. But then it's great because it's helping this body, and the body's loving it. So it's benefiting, it's whatever's meant to be. It's just what's happening. It's you just walk away and you're like, all right, But it is interesting when you reflect and on the reactions to, some just like, when they're not ready for this, it's actually threatening, and they'll actually get angry, or as you say, then they're like, oh, you something wrong, or they think, you should be in a loony bin or whatever. Or threatened. It's just like, no. It doesn't matter. It's even that. That's just like, that's also all right. You just, whatever they think is, that doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. But it is interesting, yeah. You tend to get a wide leeway. There's now from being invited to go to Tai Chi, you avoided. all for just for saying, well, God, that is God. All is God. Oh, that's true. Imagining it's God's projection. And if we took the time to question that and look at, okay, well, what are we going to be thinking with leaving? To have that, it's just collective shadow. It's a program that's running. So, of course, it's, so say, look at TikTok, it's all commercial. We're chasing the illusion because it looks real. If you haven't quietened the mind enough to just start seeing through it, as you see, everything, and if you're not paying enough attention, well, see, I suppose with that denser energy, it does feel real and seem very solid, and yeah, it does. So there we are. Anyway, we're seeding an awakening. There's a reason, I suppose, you see. So maybe people start questioning it. Who knows? I'm not sure. You don't even know. You cannot even begin to guess. I wouldn't even want to know why each person, each conversation happens, why they needed to hear it at that time. It's just a story. In the story, anyway. Of everything has meaning when nothing has. And it's so funny. It's so strange. Yeah, it's such a paradox. So anyway, there we are. Short catch up. So the illusion is definitely losing its, the story is losing its interest, like literally. There's just no desire here. It is actually an avoidance of lots of noise. Oh, that is lovely. Oh, you're so welcome. Human. Well, I love that. Human. You're not human, you're God, loving God. Oh, that's so lovely. I'm so happy for you. Well, that's why they were made. By yourself, for yourself. How sweet. That's what I'm saying. It's so lovely. And so I say, you don't judge anything. You know that you are playing a role for yourself. For that, it's like, as I say, you're the only one here. It's so funny. That's what I'm saying. You're playing all these different things. Well, that's why these videos were put out there. You know, there's going to be, this awakening is going to go on probably for another, maybe 300 years, at least another century. Obviously, the most denser, the harder ones are going to take longest. Maybe 300 years, the last will finally wake up. So you know this. That's why it was so important they don't delete the videos. You're like, oh no, please don't delete them. Because exactly, everybody, you've been through those stages. You know what it's like. And you have so many questions when you wake up, because you got also, when you first hit your lower astral, there's a lot of shadows, all those nasty things that you see in the astral, very scary things, and overcoming them and what they mean and how to overcome it, and not to fear it and everything. So you share that, and now somebody's waking up and they start seeing these nasty things in their astrals, and they fear them, and these things we taught to fear and imagined. We imagined all these nasty creatures. The denser things, it's overcoming it, your second and third density, and knowing. And if someone's done it and they tell you, you don't fear it, then you're like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what happened here. We're absolutely clueless, scared the living shit out of you when you first woke up. Yes, of course. Source. It's source in shadow, source forgetting. When you don't know who you are, you can't remember who you are, and you're in a lot of darkness, you are so in your illusion, in the delusion, so distorted, so out of your alignment, that's when things go wrong. This is exactly what it is. Sad. Of course, it's so sad when you see these things, because it's suffering you're causing upon yourself. You're just stuck in your own nightmare. That's all you are, you see. And by only bringing in light, can it start dissolving the density? That's what they say in the light. That's what it is. Allowing the light in starts to, because you've built up so much dense energy around, they don't see the truth. You can't see out of it. All you can see is nasty things. It's like being caught in a nightmare, literally. Literally. And that's why you need people to guide you out of it. See, there's nobody to hate you. Then the only ones that would do that or do not understand what is here. It's just love. There's absolute compassion for them. Oh, sadness. There's so much compassion. Because you know the suffering you're causing, only you're causing yourself. There's nobody else. You're stuck in your own. It's so sad. So sad. That's what I say. We're going to help. We're going to be helping everybody. The last ones to wake up will be obviously the ones in the most density, maybe in 200-300 years. And those are going to take a lot of work, because the more dense you start, you know what I mean? You're stuck in. To break through that density takes a lot of light. So we wake each other up. So I am so happy that those videos, that's why they were all shared on YouTube. Because you knew people were coming behind you are going to be looking for the exact same answers you were when you woke up. And it was like, oh my gosh, you know, you're fighting all these dark things and nasty things, and you're seeing them. Oh wow, did you see some? You did all those astrals, all those levels, all that stuff. You did the whole astral layers, you know, all the out of body, all of that stuff. Wow. Yep. All of those stories with the, yeah, wow. Some very, very interesting things. So, yeah, that's what you got to learn, you see. You don't realize who you are. But those are your own things, your own stories, your own. That's why you have to overcome them. What they call transcend them. That's the transcendent phase, where you've got to transcend all your own shadows, darkness, stories you've created. As a source, you created every entity that you're seeing as your own fears, morphed into something, into entities or things. They appear as that. Jealousy, rage, anger, fear, created. And you believed in everyone else with their projection. So, of course, collective humanity projected all kinds of things out there. Ooh, and created all kinds of, you know, which now you have to overcome, dissolve, or, you know, yourself. Transcend your own shadows, literally. So that's what all those videos are about, and shared, lots of them. And also, I know, and sadly, Facebook deleted every video I did. And I started on Facebook in long actually before, doing all kinds of things, helping people. But in the spiritual thing, in 2020, started sharing. In 2021, you shared so many videos of that. That's why, you see, because it's now fallen away. All gone. And they deleted everything. But anyway, as I say, it's all gone. It'll be at that density still, probably. That's why I say you've moved out of that one. So it'll probably be at that density for others. It'll be lovely. And then you know, wow, you know, how to overcome those levels and that, yeah, whatever. It's sad because that's what it's there for, others, you see. You're looking for answers, and how do you do that, and what do you do this, and, you know, I used to do all these protection. From what? Yourself? Yep. Whatever you created out there. Wow. I mean, it is. I remember looking in the mirror and something else was looking back at you, and it was, when you're unconscious and you're believing all these stories, it scared the living daylights out of you. I mean, this one was like horrified. You know, it was like, who the shit is that? You know? That's what I'm saying. You don't know. You wake up from being unconscious to thinking this is reality. All of a sudden, you know, the unseen starts becoming seen, and all these things, and oh my Lord, it wasn't, you know. And of course, at that density, all the fears and all the distortions, you've got to start there and go through them all. All the fears that you've created and all the things that you've put energy into over your whatever, in your dream. So, and then you go through all the so-called past lives in lower densities. Wow, all of that. Lots of them. And then all this and shadow work, they call it. There's so much to shift. So this is why we share ours. So others, when they wake up, because the entire planet's going to wake up, we all don't have our personal guru or personal coach, you know, whatever else. So you're seeking answers. So that's why all those videos were shared. Well, so many watched them anyway before they deleted them anyway. So it helped that we're sort of coming along with you. And then there's a lot out there. Some are only happening now. Some were way ahead, because a lot of the stuff you saw, you've seen stuff way down the line of what's going to happen on Earth and the changes. So you've seen a lot of the stuff hasn't even happened yet, and some was a year or so ago. Yes, 2020 vision, exactly. And was it? Yes. Well, yeah. It really was. And then you start, as I say, you wake up to I think 2019 or something like that, all the shadows. Wow. 2019, 2020, wow, it was like the unseen, so-called. Yeah. There we are. But that's why you have compassion, because a lot of others are going to go through it. You're still then fighting the shadows. You don't understand. You've got to go through that. You see, it's just Sorry, we got to play a puzzle again. We're hoping. Well, now it didn't work. Oh, let's try again. We're trying to play a puzzle here. There we are. Puzzle worked. We're back on. So there we are. Yes, I know. But anyway, who knows? That's what's happening. So some of the stuff that's been shared on my YouTube channel, those videos that were channeled back then, haven't even happened yet, actually. It was good timing. A lot of them were warning about humanity, about rising above the shadow, the darkness. Rising above now, like now, this collective density, not falling into it. You've got to leave everything. Let go of the world, trying to cling and resist the change, what's happening. Let go of the old earth. Just let go. Stop trying to hang on, fight for anything. Just let go of it all. Let it be. Don't try and control it. And, So a lot of that stuff that was shared there was guidance for what's coming. Exactly. That's why this body was guided on here. The weirdest thing was this body didn't realize it was awake. Only now. You're like, holy shit. You didn't realize you were, now when you've had this, when you actually had the awakening, you realize basically you had, because this one had stopped the thoughts back then, had stopped listening to the mind and the thoughts, and was seeing already everything, like, as I say, as like this translucent thing, and you'd see the real. So all the time, but it didn't realize, because, you hadn't had a guru, you didn't know what so-called, what they saw, or what so-called reality was. So you just thought, oh, well, now you've had this awakening, you can see everything. You thought that was normal. And you wonder why you were getting such information and being able to see, all over time. Because you literally had, but you didn't realize. You still thought you were a human, I can't explain it. So there wasn't cognition. And then, of course, you carried on with the story and dropped into the mind, believe in the character. So you kind of... But you didn't realize you were, You just thought, wow, this was an experience. This is amazing, You didn't realize you were actually seeing what the gurus. You were at that stage for a while. Absolute bliss and everything. I mean, I can't explain it. You didn't realize you had transcended it. You fell straight back into the ego because you had no idea. Oh, it was so funny. And you just, at that time, there was no thoughts, It's that really hard work. More than a year or so I've done that. And you'd not listen to them. So the thoughts were just completely quiet. Most of the time you didn't have any thoughts. You stayed constantly in a state of presence for a while then. So that channel back then, this one was very guided. It was completely present all the time. But you just thought that was like, you had no idea. No idea. Oh dear, funny. You were constantly talking to your higher self or yourself, but you didn't realize that was you, what you call the higher self. You see, because you didn't realize it was you. You were never this body or this, You believed you were the character talking to the higher self all the time. Anyway, communicating with source. Never mind. So a lot of very valuable information was brought through, which is happening now, still coming, telling people, so they could, prepare. Don't fight it. And there's going to be a lot of crazy behavior out there. You told them back then, years ago. You're going to start seeing some really crazy behavior. And why? So people would understand, that's the whole idea. This is the whole reason why it started the channel and was guided on you. Hello, my friend. How are you? Did you see when I said thank you for my